Santa Clara cannot hide behind patience this season. A draft class that took plenty of heat already has one rookie making people look twice. The defensive line still has a hole that one aggressive trade could wipe away. And Nick Bosa's massive contract is about to face the one test that really matters: production. Meanwhile, the Brandon Aiyuk standoff keeps getting messier, and the championship clock is still ticking. Those are 4 pressure points, and every single one needs a real answer from this organization. Subscribe to 49ERS Express because today we're separating smart roster building from expensive hesitation. Raised in the Bay, built by red and gold. It is way too easy to laugh at a draft pick before the pads even come on. San Francisco heard plenty of that after the 2026 NFL Draft, with critics calling multiple selections major reaches. Fine, let them talk in June. Jaden Dugger now has a real chance to make those rushed judgments look embarrassingly early. Dugger was never viewed as the biggest gamble in this class, and the first signs from OTAs have been encouraging. Ryan Fowler named the rookie as one of the standouts, and Matt Barrows also left impressed by what he saw. Nobody should confuse spring practices with real football, but when a 22-year-old starts getting attention this quickly, you do not just brush it off. You ask why. Start with his size and versatility. Dugger is a tall, long-armed linebacker who can move across the formation instead of being trapped in one role. The 49ers can keep him off the ball, walk him down toward the line of scrimmage, or use him as an extra pressure threat. That matters because modern offenses punish defenders who show exactly what they are about to do. A player who can change the picture before the snap gives this defense another way to create hesitation. The coaching fit could not be much better. Linebackers coach KJ Wright built a long NFL career with a similar frame, using length, awareness, and discipline to impact plays without needing to be the fastest player on the field. He can teach Dugger from experience, not theory. Where should those long arms be used? How does a taller linebacker stay balanced through traffic? How do you disguise pressure without giving up leverage? Wright knows those answers because he lived them. Now add Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw to that classroom. Dugger gets to watch 2 linebackers who understand the speed, violence, and communication this defense demands. Warner is coming back from an ankle injury that cost him most of last season, while Greenlaw has battled physical setbacks throughout his career. That makes Dugger's development more than just a nice future project. Depth can turn into responsibility on one single play. Nick Martin, the linebacker selected in 2025, did not make a major immediate impact. Dugger now has a chance to flip that recent pattern. If he can turn these early flashes into reliable regular season snaps, the conversation around this draft class can change fast. The front office does not need praise for being unconventional. It needs to prove its evaluation was better than the public reaction. Dugger can give them exactly that proof. But developing Jaden Dugger does not solve the most urgent issue on this defense. The spot opposite Nick Bosa still does not have a complete answer. Right now, the 49ers have players who can pressure the quarterback and others who are better built to stop the run. What they are missing is a defender who can do both jobs without forcing the coaching staff to tip its hand through substitutions. That is what makes the idea of pursuing Alex Highsmith worth taking seriously. There is no confirmed trade in place, but if Pittsburgh is willing to listen, San Francisco has to find out what the price would be. Highsmith is exactly the kind of edge defender who could fix a structural weakness. He is strong against the run, dangerous when chasing the quarterback, and dependable in situations where the offense can go either direction. That last part is huge. On 3rd and medium, the defense cannot afford to give anything away. Put a lighter pass rusher on the field, and the opponent can attack on the ground. Answer with a run-stopping specialist, and the quarterback gets more comfortable in the pocket. Highsmith reduces that vulnerability because he does not have to leave the field when the situation changes. Bosa should not have to carry the entire burden of wrecking opposing protections. When all the pressure depends on him, the offense can slide the running back, send help from the tight end, and build the whole blocking plan toward number 97. Put a complete player on the other side, and the math changes. The protection has to respect both edges. That could open up far more chances inside. Of course, any possible deal would depend on the draft compensation, Highsmith's salary, and Pittsburgh's willingness to negotiate. Being aggressive does not mean being reckless. It means understanding that the championship window will not stay open forever, and a known weakness can charge a brutal price in January. The 49ers do not need to make a trade just to create headlines. They need to attack a limitation that smart opponents are going to target. If Highsmith really becomes available at a reasonable cost, this front office cannot sit back and watch. It has to get into the conversation, apply pressure, and see how far Pittsburgh is willing to go. Potential inside the rotation is interesting. A complete running mate for Bosa could raise the ceiling of the entire defense. That brings us into an uncomfortable conversation, because getting Nick Bosa more help does not erase the responsibility tied to his contract. Bleacher Report ranked Bosa's deal as the fourth worst contract in the NFL entering the 2026 season. I understand the concern, but calling that contract a disaster before seeing Bosa return to the field feels like rushing the verdict at the exact moment the story could still turn. The 5-year, $170 million extension he signed in 2023 made Bosa the highest-paid non-quarterback in the league at the time by annual average value. Other contracts have passed it since then because that is how the NFL works. But the numbers ahead are intimidating. A cap hit of roughly $23 million in 2026 and $54.9 million in 2027. There is no clever way to hide that. $54.9 million is a brutal number for any defensive player, especially in his age 30 season. Moving on after 2026 could also cost the 49ers nearly $50 million. San Francisco is not looking at a bill it can just rip up and forget. The organization needs that investment to start producing at the required level again. The knee is at the center of everything. Bosa tore his ACL and played in only 3 games during the 2025 season. His production had already fallen from his 2022 peak, when he won Defensive Player of the Year. That is where Brad Gagnon's argument comes from. Declining production, a serious injury, and a financial structure that is too heavy to offer an easy exit. There is still a huge difference between a bad contract and a contract being threatened by bad circumstances. Bosa can completely flip this conversation. If he returns healthy, gets his explosiveness back, and reaches double-digit sacks again, the front office gains room to restructure the deal, spread out part of the future cap hit, and keep a game-changing pass rusher at the center of the defense. That would not be financial charity. It would be another investment in a player who has already proven he can wreck opposing offenses. If Bosa loses power in his first step, struggles to stay on the field, or keeps playing below the level that justified the extension, the issue stops being somebody's offseason ranking. It becomes a real roster-building crisis. A $54.9 million cap hit limits potential additions, contract extensions, and overall depth. That is cornerstone money. It has to create cornerstone influence. This is also why the idea of adding Highsmith becomes even more appealing. It would not only strengthen the defensive line, it could prevent every evaluation of Bosa from depending on whether he can beat protections designed almost completely to stop him. Giving him support could boost Bosa's production while protecting the defense's biggest investment. I want the community's read on this. Do you consider Bosa's contract one of the worst in the NFL, or does that ranking ignore what he could still bring? I am not giving up on a player of his caliber before he even gets back. But in the Bay Area, reputation does not pay the bill. Bosa has to return, attack, and prove he can still lead the gold rush. While the defense is trying to regain its strength, the offense is dealing with something that has moved well beyond the normal tension of a contract dispute. The relationship between Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers deteriorated because both sides seemed to believe money would solve something that was never strictly financial. The team thought the contract would create alignment. Aiyuk appeared to believe the agreement would bring acceptance and security. Neither expectation came true. Now the 49ers have an expensive, public, and completely unproductive standoff. Aiyuk can use social media to show his frustration, pressure the organization, or control his own narrative. But an Instagram post does not change the roster, restore guarantees, or resolve the conflict. If his goal is to play again, receive what he believes he is owed, or earn his way out, his strategy eventually has to move away from Instagram and reach the team facility. Reporting could force a decision. If the 49ers failed him on his physical, the debate around his roster bonus due in September would become far more urgent. The team could consider releasing him before that payment comes due. San Francisco could also choose to hold its ground, argue that voiding the guarantees was an appropriate punishment, and allow the dispute to keep going. That path would create another fight. If the 49ers have no intention of playing Aiyuk or paying his bonus, how long could they keep him tied to the contract and stop him from finding an opportunity somewhere else? The argument presented in the original report is that the league might eventually step in and push San Francisco to release him. That remains only one possible outcome. It would depend on the decisions both sides make, how the contract is interpreted, and where this situation goes from here. Clarity can already be demanded. Kyle Shanahan and the front office cannot allow one player's dispute to become permanent noise around Brock Purdy and the rest of the offense. Purdy is entering a season where any MVP conversation will depend on efficiency, stability, and wins. Having an important wide receiver at war with the organization does not help with any of those three. Aiyuk has to face reality too. If he wants to protect his career, his influence cannot be limited to indirect messages. He needs to take action that forces the other side to respond. Reporting, going through the required procedures, and putting the decision directly in the 49ers' hands would be a much stronger form of pressure. San Francisco cannot enter training camp carrying a directionless saga. Either there is a professional path toward reintegration, or the franchise needs to find a financially responsible way out. Keeping an unhappy player just to win a battle over authority does not move anyone closer to the Super Bowl. Pride matters in the Bay Area. Stubbornness without purpose does not. This offense belongs to Brock Purdy. The championship window is moving, and the mission is still the same: finish the job. Aiyuk and the 49ers need to decide whether they can still move forward together, or whether it is finally time to stop wasting time. The 49ers have reached the point where managing expectations is not enough anymore. They need to start producing answers. Jaden Dugger can restore confidence in this draft class. Highsmith would represent the kind of aggression needed to complete the defensive line. Nick Bosa has to turn a frightening contract into real impact, and the conflict with Brandon Aiyuk demands a decision before it damages Brock Purdy's offense. None of these stories exists in isolation. Together, they reveal a franchise under pressure to protect its championship window. Hit the like button, subscribe to 49ers Express, and follow every move coming out of Santa Clara. Because wearing red and gold means carrying history. It also means demanding the next championship.